Awesome. Okay. Yeah, we are going. Hello again,
Awesome.
Nick.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Cool.
Which I'm
Well,
not usually excited on a Friday afternoon because I usually don't do a lot of constructive stuff on Fridays, but I've been traveling like 3 weeks in a row, so I had to catch up at some point. So
oh
here
my gosh.
here I am.
Where have you been going?
Well, let's see. Since the first of the year, I was in Seattle, and then I was in I've been in Dallas a couple of times, and I was in Atlanta, and then I was in Fort Lauderdale, and then I was in Los Angeles and Phoenix, and now I'm back here in Austin. So, and I think I'm here for a couple of weeks. We'll see.
Oh my gosh.
I
Are these
know it's
all
crazy. It's like January and February, hibernating like bears, but I'm
it,
unfortunately I'm not.
it's been what, 2.5 months and you named like six
Not
different
even no. It's like not a month and a half. What are you
a month
talking
and a
about?
half. Oh my
Get
God.
the calendar out. I wish it was May. No, I don't wish it was May. Anyway, it's all good.
You know what's really interesting is Seattle and Washington as a state keeps popping up for me. I had a friend that had gone to a conference that he invited me to in September. I wasn't able to attend, but within the past 2 months, or yeah, it was September, and then it kind of died down. And then once it came into January, I've had everybody start talking to me about, oh, I want to go to Washington. I want to go to Washington. I want to go hiking. That's interesting.
Well, I might go back. You never know.
So we haven't really talked much. What's your like elevator picture, or who are you? Who is Nick?
Well, it's funny because we have a connection here with inside the sub two community, and it's sub two is a really cool thing, right? Everybody thinks it's the hot new thing. Well, it's not like it's definitely not new. Like we've been buying stuff creatively for 20 years, and creative financing has been around for 500 years, probably more than that, right? It's just funny because I joke to people. It's like I've literally been doing creative financing longer than 80% of the people have been breathing air on the planet, right? Because it's such a new thing. It's like, you're a perfect example, but I've been doing this probably longer than you've been alive, which is, great for you, not as much for me, but you get to learn from all the old guys that have, really sort of gone through all the changes in the cycles and up and downs and what we call seasons, right? So, you have a definite advantage, and anybody that's in that same age group has a tremendous advantage that we didn't have even 15 years ago. We didn't have podcasts to be on. We didn't have YouTube and social media and data that's just drops on our plate to be able to analyze. We had to go to courthouses and do things the old fashioned way. But so we take advantage of all it today. So it's all good.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting to think about. I was remembering not too long ago when my mom would have me print out things from MapQuest so that we knew where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot why exactly I was thinking about that, but it's funny for me, because I grew up with technology, like as it was coming out, it's kind of innate in like how to use it for me. But a lot of times I'm with my parents or with people that are just a little older than me, and they start asking a question, and then they're like, "Well, I guess we'll never know." I'm like, "Wait, you just look it up."
Yeah,
And
I
you're
don't think either. I don't think we. I don't think when my. I don't think either one of my two kids even had. We even had a home phone, like a regular traditional phone in our house, right? Everything's always been mobile for them, right? It's always
Mhm.
been, back in the day we had phone on the wall, right? And then you talk about MapQuest, and we talk about like before we used to go to AAA and we get these things called trip tickets, right? And it was a folding map, and you want to go from Phoenix to Miami. You get this, they print you out the guide and show you everything. It was a book. And then the more advanced piece of that later came on, where there was GPS, and the GPS was a standalone device. Think of your iPhone as just being GPS only. Now your iPhone does that times 1,000 things. And this is where we are today, is that the technology has really put us in a unique position. And now we're getting into the whole AI space, which is just going to make us be able to do things faster, more efficient, more effective, at a lower price, hopefully more profit. And that's the advantage that, technology allows us to take advantage of.
Yeah. And would you be able to go a little more into detail on, your name on the screen, the note guy? Would that
Yeah.
be?
So, it's funny because most people don't understand what notes are. And I think when I talk about notes, I'm talking about mortgage notes, not music notes here. Right. So, but everything is everything that we do in real estate is the means to the end is the mortgage note. So when people buy houses, they usually get some type of financing on that house, right? And they usually go to a bank. Not always. Sometimes they'll have somebody like me provide financing for them. We'll talk about that here too. And they get a mortgage, and a mortgage is the note. The note is the promise to pay. Some people get notes when they go buy a car. They get a promissory note, or they're making payments. Well, there's the document is actually called a promissory note. So that's what we're talking about. So everything we do in real estate is the means to the end. The note is the end. So in my space, we are all about controlling real estate, not owning it. And we control it by the promissory note or the promise to pay. So on the flip side of that, when we're talking about stuff in sub 2 or creative financing, that's typically what people are trying to acquire, right? They're trying to not necessarily acquire the property per se. They're trying to acquire the mortgage or the note or the ability to take over the payments in the form of instead in lieu of cash per se, right? Mm-hmm. So we use it on both sides. We use it when we acquire, and then we also use it when we sell or we disposition.
That's interesting. And would you be able to elaborate a little?
Yeah,
Elaborate
I mean,
more so
we
that
can talk
someone
about it's a very boring thing. That's why there's no television shows on promissory notes. There's always notes. There's always shows on how to fix and flip a house.
Yeah.
How to renovate this or whatever. I mean, because a mortgage note is just basically a piece of paper, right? It's just a document. Well, it's pretty hard to make that cool looking, right? Mm-hmm. But this is what all the banks do, right? Banks don't own real estate. They control everything. They own nothing. But I learned a long time ago, you go downtown in Houston or Dallas or Phoenix or Los Angeles, or even the smallest town in any city, in the epicenter of that city, the middle, there's banks on every one of those corners, right? And the banks are the biggest buildings in almost any town, even in the small towns. They're the biggest buildings. Maybe only be 1 or 2 stories, but they're bigger than everything else. And they are that way because banks, in a lot of ways, rule the universe from a financial perspective, right? So when you understand what a bank does and how to think, act, and be a bank, and be able to control real estate like a bank does, there's a tremendous amount of value and a tremendous amount of money to be made. You don't necessarily need to own a house to make and rent it out for cash flow. I can own the note, the piece of paper, and still get cash flow that way as well. So just a different way of looking at it. It's an extremely large market. Most people don't understand how big the seller financing or private note space is. And we'll probably hit $25 billion this year, maybe 30 billion. It's a pretty significant number where most people don't even know that it exists or don't even know they even have the ability to be the bank. So a lot of people like to go buy stuff with existing debt and then keep it, right? And I do too. And then turn it into a rental, a long-term rental, short-term rental, mid-term rental, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the other option is to basically create your own mortgage and then basically generate cash flow that way. So
that makes sense. So
a lot more complex than it is. And as a result of it, you got to really have the right people and the right team to really make sure that all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, that you're compliant, that you're meeting all the regulatory standards and everything relative to compliance and, because you're dealing with the consumer. So you have things like the CFPB, which is the consumer it's CFPB. It's all about consumers, protecting the consumer. I should know the acronym. There's things called SAFE Act and Dodd-Frank and SB 43 in the state of Texas, and there's a lot of things, and people have to understand that when you're selling to a consumer, you're a lender to a consumer. It's not the same as a real estate transaction. And we got to really make sure that people understand what that means. That's why we have USA Home Partners, so that in the event that you do want to do a complex type transaction, which would be, for example, a sub-2 wrap transaction. We hear this a lot, but most people don't know what that means. You really have to think like a bank, like a lender to a consumer. And that's not what most people understand in the real estate space. They know how to be entrepreneurs. They know how to be a realtor, how to be a wholesaler. They know how to be a fix and flipper. They know how to be a negotiator. They don't know how, most people do not know how to be a lender to a consumer. And so this is where it gets really tricky. And you really got to have the right infrastructure to do it. And I would not recommend anybody running out and trying to do this on their own. I've literally done this 1,500 times, and I still have the best people on the planet to help facilitate this, because, you know, an average file, for example, when we're done with all this, could be over 500 pages, over 85 documents, over 45 disclosures. I mean, these are significant these are significant files that have that. And at the end of the day, it's all about protecting the buyer and protecting the seller if we're buying it creatively. So I don't need to be protected. I know what, I'm a big guy. I can figure this out on my own, but I'll negotiate more deals before lunchtime than most people will do in their lifetime, right? Because you think about, you know, let's talk about you for a second. You're fairly young. How many houses have you lived in that your parents have owned since you were born?
0.
Well, one, right? One that you were raised in, right?
Yeah.
How many houses have your parents owned?
0.
Are they renting?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but are they in the same house, or they've changed?
Changed.
Okay, so they changed. But most people that own, they buy a house, and they're in it for a few years, and then they outgrow it and they go to the forever home. So they might do two types of transactions, for example. Like my parents, they're in their second house and they're 80 years old. Okay.
Oh, wow.
They're in one house for like 25 years, and they've been in the other house almost the same amount of time. But this will be the last house they ever own. Okay. My point in all this is that they're not experts when it comes to negotiating and figuring out how to structure something, right? Yeah. I mean, they know they have a house and they know how they call a realtor, things like that. But if somebody knocks on the door that's a investor per se, they don't understand this. Okay. And this is a very important piece, because when you're dealing from a position of being an authority and being experienced or being a professional, you have an unfair advantage against other people if you don't disclose. Okay. Yeah. So it's super important to educate and disclose. And that's sort of what helps people understand, because the last thing you want to do is go in and find a buyer or a seller and do a transaction and not be able to just tell them and explain to them exactly what's happening, why it's happening, when it's happening, because it's just not the right thing to do, first of all. But you don't want to have a problem at some point in the future, because you trick somebody, right? For lack of a better word, even if it wasn't intentionally. So really, really important that we go over and above what we need to do. And this is exactly why our files have well over 500 pages when it's done. Isn't to protect me, it's to protect the seller when we buy the house creatively, and it's to protect the buyer when we sell it. It's to protect our private money lenders that are in the middle. It's to protect everybody. It's to protect the integrity of the entire transaction, so that there is no misunderstanding. Okay. It is extremely black and white. There is no layers of gray. And that's why there's so many damn pages. And that's why Dodd-Frank was written to protect the consumer. There's like probably over 8,000 pages now in Dodd-Frank. It's crazy. And it's all there, quote unquote, to protect the consumer. So it's there for a reason, and it's not there for my benefit. It's for theirs. So we want to make sure that we uphold that as best as we physically can. And we're in a position. Banks already do all this, right? So you think about it. If you want to go down and buy a house, and you want to borrow money from Chase or Wells Fargo or Bank of America, guess what they have? they already have everything integrated inside their bank.
Yeah.
They have their own underwriters, they have their own attorneys, they have their own doc prep, they have their own servicing, they have their own underwriters, they have everything in play. All they do is tell the title company what to do. When you're an individual or an investor and you're doing it in a private sector, you don't have the access to all that, right? You don't have your own attorney. You don't have your own title company per se. You don't have your own servicing. You don't have your own underwriter. So you have to, not only do you have to seek it out, you got to seek out capable and competent people to do it for you. You have to know that you have to do it, right? But a lot of people go, well, I'll just do a contract for deed. Well, why? Why not a mortgage deed of trust? Because last time I checked, Bank of America doesn't do contract for deeds. So why are you doing a contract for deed? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with contract for deeds, but you got to ask these kind of questions. Or they'll let the borrower set up servicing. They won't service the note, and they'll take the payments directly. Another bad. Bank of America would never let you do that, right? Bank of America would never let you pay your own taxes and insurance. So why should you let your borrower do that? Just little things like this, and all of this impacts the end of the train per se, which is the note that we're creating. So think of it like a car, right? If you have a used car that you want to sell, okay, if you keep the maintenance records and you keep records of everything and it's in really good condition, and you can verify that the oil's been changed and the tires are good, the brakes work, and the paint's in good condition and there's no dents or scratches on it, it's worth more money than the same make and model that's been beat up, right? Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to do, is that we're trying to create this note to emulate what a bank does, okay? So that in the event that you want to sell the note, because the note is an asset, the note is no different than a house. Well, if you have a nice house that's been well maintained, it's worth more than one that's been not. Same thing with mortgage notes. And the problem is, people don't understand this when they create the note today and they try to do something with it 3, 4, or 5 years down the road. And they realize, holy crap, I cannot believe that I just was looking at one today. They said, hey, it's worth the value is $74,000. And we did the math on it based on what we know about the underwriting file. It's worth about $35,000 to $40,000. Could very easily be worth $75,000. But there again, if you don't understand what needs to be done to what we call stacking the file, that 500 pages of documents, if you don't do that from the beginning, you can't go back and fix it, okay? Because you sign contracts with sellers, you sign contracts with buyers, you agree to certain things. Well, if you agree to something and you sign it, it's really hard to fix it. Or change it, right? You have to get both parties to agree. Well, why would a buyer or a seller want to change anything if it doesn't benefit them, right? They won't. That's the bottom line. So we want to make sure that we address all that at the beginning. And most of the time where problems arise is they just don't know. They just don't know. They've only done 3 of these, 4 of these, 5 of these. I'm working with people that have done dozens and dozens of these types of transactions, and they've done them all wrong. Wow. Every one of them. In fact, 95% of the private mortgages that are created, because we're creating a mortgage on a wrap, it's what it technically is. 95% of them, they would fail an institutional audit, okay, a bank audit. They don't meet the same guidelines and standards that a Chase or Wells Fargo or Bank of America has, either because of compliance or just best banking and business practices. That's ultimately it. They don't take care of it from the beginning, and as a result of it, the value decreases. So that's what we ultimately try to do. That's why we want to make sure, if you're going to do these types of transactions, that you understand the importance of doing it correctly, not only from a legal side of it, but also from a financial side of it, so that you have it correctly structured, but you also have the ability to get maximum value if you go sell a note in this stage. Does that help you out?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. What I got from that is there's a lot of rules. So
there are a ton of rules. A ton of rules. And look, it's a huge transaction from acquisition to disposition. And no one should try to do all this on their own. I'm telling you right now. How do I know this? Because I did about 420 of these types of transactions, and I did them wrong, and it cost me about $6 million. And I don't mean $6 million like in a loss, but in opportunity because of what we call it the discount. So that $75,000 note that was worth $35,000 now because of improper underwriting and structuring.
Mhm.
Well, that's part of that thing. So if you do enough of them, that's a lot of 20, 30, 40, $50,000 deductions. It adds up if you do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of notes. So now we're writing notes at getting what we call close to maximum value or full UPB or payoff. And as a result of that, it means more money in our pocket. So, what I tell everybody is like, look, you have to vet everybody in your process. Okay. And what I mean by that is that you have to understand that as a newbie or a beginner or less experienced, you need to seek people out that have either done it the way in the model that you want to do, so you can emulate it. And I'm not saying, hey, if I've made $10 million selling used cars, okay, and you're trying to create a note, even though I've been really successful selling used cars, I'm not the person you should consult with for notes or creating notes, right? You got to find somebody that understands this. And I think this is the problem that people they don't understand, is they go, well, they've been successful in business, so they ought to be of a value to me. And they may be to a certain point, but it has to be very specific in the profession. That's number one. Number two is that most of the mistakes that I see people making in this space is that their intention is good and their idea and their thought pattern is good. Is like, I know I need help. Okay. So I'm going to go ask the title company, can they help me with this? Do you have an attorney that can help me do it? And inevitably the answer is yes. Problem is they're asking the right questions, but they're not vetting the people that are doing the transaction. Doesn't mean they can't do it. It gets back to this huge discount that we're trying to avoid, because they're doing it from a legal perspective, not a lender perspective. So let me explain that. Every title company on the planet that closes a transaction, their responsibility is to do things legally, right? Make sure they create the documentation, the documents correctly. Make sure they verify, make sure they collect signatures, file, whatever it is. That's legal. That's this side. Lending is way, way higher, more stringent than legal. Everybody thinks legal is the pinnacle of everything. It's not. Okay. Lending trumps legal, because you have to have all the legal in place, and then you add a layer on top of all the lending. This is stuff like we talked about, the servicing, the underwriting, the insurance, all these things that have tremendous impact on the value of the note. Okay. So what happens is this: people don't understand this because they don't understand the note space. So they think legal is the limit. So what happens? They go in and they consult and they get legal advice, not lending advice. Okay, big difference. So there's a lot of great attorneys out there that understand their side of the business, but they don't understand it from a lender perspective. Okay, and this is what we do, and this is what we bring into on the transactional side of USA Home Partners. Is that's what we do. We provide it from a lender perspective, because everything that I've been talking about, the creating of private mortgages and the transaction system and management, I sold to a bank. I sold this whole system and all my assets to a federally chartered bank. So I went through all this underwriting and due diligence by the bank, vetting me that I was doing it right. And at the end of the day, they bought the company. So, I mean, I sold a company to a bank, and I always say this: well, it was good enough for a bank, then it was good enough for me. It should be good enough for most people, right? Because we already established that banks are the top of all of this stuff, and they determine how everything goes down. So why is this all important? Well, should you do these transactions? Absolutely, but you got to make sure you do them correctly. And I go back, you have to vet. You got to vet the process. Okay, you have to vet. You got to understand what it takes to exit out on the end, and you need to ask all the questions. Who's going to be my servicer? Who's going to be my insurance? And ask the questions: are they capable and competent to do that task for my transaction? And most of the time, the answer is no. Okay, it's like I always use getting chased by the bear, right? You and I are both getting chased by a bear. Okay,
Okay.
all I have to do is be faster than you. Okay,
Yes.
but that doesn't mean I'm fast. It just
Mm-hmm.
means I'm faster than you. I could be the second slowest person on the planet, and you'd be the slowest. That mean so relatively speaking, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not fast at all. Well, same thing applies when you do these things. Somebody might is smarter than you, so you assume that they can do it correctly. But smarter than you doesn't mean smart, and I don't mean in a condescending way. I mean relative to what you need to have done,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
You don't go to the you don't go to the to the orthopedic surgeon if you're having heart issues. They're
Yeah.
both doctors, but it doesn't mean but the knee guy doesn't know anything about cardio. That's the
Absolutely.
difference. You know, you know, you got to really understand. Hey, let's the Super Bowl just happened and Patrick Mahomes just won another Super Bowl and he's a great quarterback.
Mhm.
But is he the greatest quarterback ever? No, not yet. He may be in time, probably
Mhm.
Tom Brady. So I'm probably going to go to Tom Brady for my advice and recommendation if I need to understand what the role and capacity of a quarterback is to be the best quarterback ever. I would
Mhm.
seek that person out. I'm not going to go to the kid that just won the Texas high school football championship, even though he could be a really good quarterback. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? You got to
Yeah.
have the right people on your side and your team that understand it to give you maximum value. And that goes from the attorneys to the title companies to the servicers to the underwriters to the insurance providers, the note creators, everything. Okay. And that's sort of what we put together in there. So, I always tell people that really these transactions are extremely complex,
Mhm.
but they're not difficult. There's just a lot of moving parts. Okay, but
Yeah.
you miss one little part, it could change the trajectory. You know, there's a book called Atomic Habits. Okay, it's a great book, and he's talking about the pilot that's flying from Los Angeles to New York, I believe. Okay, and he puts the information into his navigational system, and if he misses that by like even a half a degree, okay, instead of ending up in New York City, he ends up somewhere in Canada.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
just for a little bit. Okay,
Wow.
we can't afford that little bit of a margin of error when we're talking about lending to consumers. Is the point that
Mhm.
I'm making. So it's super super important that you find the right team if you can to make sure you do it. And I always say this: there's really only four things that you really really need to do and really should do. Number one, you need to be able to find the deal. Okay, well, a lot of ways to do that. Number two, you got to be able to analyze and see if it's even a good deal or not. Well, there's a lot of people that can show you and teach you how to do that. Then you got to figure out how to fund the deal, right? Either short term or long term. Okay. And you find a buyer. And then all the other stuff that goes along with it, that 500 pages of documents and the 500 pages and the 80 something documents and the 40 something disclosures, get the heck out of the way and get the right team that can do all that stuff for you. You'll be much happier in the long run. You'll be much more protected and you'll make a heck of a lot more money doing it right from the beginning. I learned a long time if you don't have time to do it right or can't afford to do it right the first time, how the heck do you ever expect to do it the second time? It just doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
So that's it. That's all. So didn't mean to get on that tangent there, but super important that if you're going to do these types of wrap mortgage transactions, that you really, really, really understand what it is that you're doing. And it's not a typical real estate transaction. So don't treat it as that. Don't leave me. And
My
she's
internet has been a little bit wacky.
okay.
2 points I want to mention on that.
Yeah.
First, when you were discussing about an attorney and how they may see something legally but not in terms of a lender,
Mm-hmm.
I I can kind of relate to that at least with really basic sub two or seller finance deals if we're wholesaling for instance. A lot of agents or a lot of sellers might say, well, I spoke to an attorney and they said it's illegal. I'm like, okay, but did you speak to a real estate attorney? Did you speak to a real estate attorney that is experienced in these types of transactions? Because yeah, it's the same thing. You can go to one doctor and complain about something. But if they're not, you know, specialized in that field, they may not even know.
It's funny. I'm glad you bring that up because we hear it all the time that from not only realtors that say it's illegal, but attorneys that say it's illegal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, we say, well, you're wrong. And show me somewhere in the property code that says that it's illegal.
Yeah.
In Texas, we have what's called SB 43, which is Senate Bill 43. And if you go read what Senate Bill 43 is, I'm not saying you should, but if you understand what it is conceptually, it says everything that we just talked about, that it is legal and that you can do it, but you just got to do certain things to protect the integrity of the deal. Yeah. So what we've done, matter of fact, with the attorneys that we use internally, is that we have actually have created for realtors continuing education on creative financing taught by attorneys that's been accredited by the real estate commission.
Wow. Are those in person or online?
Both. Do both. Yeah. We can, and it's available to anybody. I mean, you might not get the CE credit if you're in Ohio and it specializes in Texas, but conceptually it doesn't change anything. My point that I'm making is that it is legal. It's taught by attorneys. It's approved by the real estate commission, and you get credit for learning creative financing. I mean, go ahead and argue it if you want, but this is it. Nobody knows everything about everything. I don't know everything about everything. You don't know. So, but that's why you got to surround yourself with the right people that understand what this really ultimately represents. And if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. This is all I could say. If you don't want to play by these complex rules the right way, don't take a shortcut. Just don't do it. There's plenty of people that you can partner with in this space that do have the experience and the skill sets to do it correctly, to protect all parties involved and still get paid on it. You don't have to be the one that underwrites the buyer and creates the back end. You can just understand what the value of it is and still get paid on it. And that's what we recommend all people to do in the beginning, and then find somebody that understands this and does it correctly, either as an investor or anybody in and that's a vendor in the process, all the way from the TC. The TC rules everything. The TC should be the smartest person in the operation because they handle everything, or that they, when you go to a title company and you close with the attorney, they could care less if you used an RMLO to underwrite your borrow. They don't even ask the question if you do. They don't care what you charge for the interest, but you need to know what's legally allowed. They don't care who you pick for insurance or how you structure insurance. They don't care if you have a servicer that collects the payments and escrows tax insurance. They don't care, but you should care. And if you don't care and you don't know, that's the problem. Okay. And this is the biggest problem that I see when people go to a title company and say, can you close my sub-2 transaction? The answer is inevitably yes, but they're thinking of it like their little piece of the equation. And as the investor, or as you going in, you're thinking they're going to make sure everything's perfect because they're the attorney and they're smarter than you. And that's what you're paying them for. It just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. I wish it did. But unfortunately, the title company and the attorney have nothing to do with servicing. The servicer has nothing to do with insurance. The insurance has absolutely nothing to do with underwriting of the borrower. And none of that has anything to do with the creating of the note and being able to leverage the note at some point in the future. So make sure you associate with the right people and vet them and make sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, they're the most capable, competent individuals you can do to protect your transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just a great reminder that I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm glad that you mentioned, insurance is different from the servicing company, and that they will not necessarily not care about, stuff with insurance, but they're just same with the doctor. They know their own lane and that's what they stick to.
And they're really, really good in their own lane.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really good. Right. So same thing goes with this. Figure out what lane you're going to be in and be really, really good at it. And when it's not in your lane, find somebody that's really good in their lane. Okay. That's why I say, you can't just hire any attorney. You can't just hire any title company. You can't just hire any TC. You got to make sure there's uber specialized in the exact type of transaction that you're dealing with here. If it's a standard wholesale deal or something, that's simple. Anybody can do that because it's the same. But when you start adding the complexity of an owner finance buyer and a
Mhm.
consumer, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had no idea that there was so much complexity when it came to wraps or when it came to selling a note. So that's
This is what happens and what we see, and I try to help people all the time. But here's the problem, okay? People come in and they'll come back to me, 6 months later, a year later, and go, "Man, my 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 deal's falling apart. I can't pay my private money lender back. My seller now wants to buy into the house." Like all these kind of things, um, really have a negative impact on the longevity of these deals. And, I saw one come in and say, "Hey, I got an investor. He's had like 5 due on sales in the last couple of months." And I go, "I haven't had 5. I've had 0 due on sales ever.
yeah.
Not one. Could I have one tomorrow? Absolutely. Is it possible? Sure. Is it probable? No.
Mhm.
Highly improbable. And even if it did, I know how to solve it because I built systems and processes to protect the integrity of the deal. One of them is creating the note properly. So I don't have to sell it at a discount. I can go sell my note tomorrow and pay off Wells Fargo. But if you don't underwrite the deal correctly from the beginning, guess what you don't get? You have a truck that's got a bunch of scratch and dents in it with no maintenance records, and now you're trying to sell it for a premium price. You're not going to get it.
Mhm.
Okay. So you got to maintain it from the very, very beginning. And some things you can't fix, right? You just can't fix it after the fact. This is what we want to try to avoid. And this is it. So, by taking a little bit more time, spending a little bit more money, and doing it correctly from the beginning, people go, "Oh, I'm not using that title company. They take way too long." Take too long? What does that even mean? Take too long. You want the guy that's going to cut you open and do triple bypass surgery on you to
Yeah.
hurry to get through it? Are you kidding me? Guys, this is not Chick-fil-A drive-through.
Mhm.
Okay. This is not what this is. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Okay. We want these transactions to last 10, 15, 20 years. Okay. And if you don't put the time on the front side, guess what you get? A disgruntled seller 6 months into the deal. Now what's that deal worth? A private money lender that's going, "Why aren't you paying me back?" Okay. Are you structure the deal incorrectly and now you're losing and it's a negative cash flowing situation that could have been avoided and prevented.
Mhm.
This is like, so, you have to, if you're not willing to put the energy and effort to do it right, please don't do them. It's not, you're going to create more of a problem later than if just not doing that deal to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people that are, just starting to get interested in real estate, or maybe they've been in real estate, but now they want to learn more about notes and wraps and such, do you teach that in the at?
Yeah, we do a little bit of it. I don't really teach that really part of it. But here, at the end of the day, it's not that hard to do. All we need people to do, like I said, we talk about finding the deal. First two things is find it and analyze it. Okay, so
Mhm.
if you've never done one of these deals before, and this is sound something, because there's a lot of money in these deals.
Yeah.
These are sub two wrap mortgage transactions are extremely valuable in the community, and it's a win-win-win for everybody. You have the ability to help a seller out of a situation that may not be where they want to be. They're in a distressed situation for one there. But when you do it correctly and you sell it on a wrap, you're able to provide home ownership to a hardworking family that's been told no by a bank.
Mhm.
That's a tremendous value. That's a tremendous give back to the community that we've done over 1,000 times. Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, to be able to provide that opportunity to somebody where the bank's told them no is extremely valuable. Obviously, I'm not a charity. I benefit by being the matchmaker in that transaction, and I get paid, cash flow, and I can make a substantial amount of money over time. Okay, so I win, in that transaction as well. So, yeah, I think the best thing to do is the easiest thing to do is go find deals and get copies of mortgage statements.
Mm.
Okay, you know, tell the seller, I think I can get you what you're looking for. But I need a mortgage statement because I need to really understand what is owed, how much you're going to have net on it, so I can make you the highest and best offer. And then from there, you can come in. We have a software called Deal Evaluator. You can actually use the software to analyze the deal to see if it's a deal or not. It's not a spreadsheet. It is like legit software that we spent a lot of money and time to build that does very high complex uh, calculations and algorithms because of amortization, and you can see exactly what the value of the deal is, and then from there you can either keep it yourself or you can find somebody that will pay you a fee, and you can assign it to them. So really, to get started, anybody can do it. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to. I have some high school kids that we're getting ready to do this with,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just show them that it's simplest. It's simple enough that even a high school person could actually do it. All you got to do is, have a conversation with the seller, identify him, and say, hey, um, if I can get, I'm not saying I can, but if I can get you what you're asking for, what would that price be or whatever that looks like. Here's what I need. I need a mortgage statement. Everything evolves around the mortgage statement. Unless they own it free and clear. If they own it free and clear, well, then we know there's no mortgage. We're going to create the mortgage that the seller will carry. So the mortgage statement is by far the most important thing. I don't want the seller to tell me I think I owe $300,000. I think my rate's 3.5%. I'm about 2 months behind on my payments. No, that doesn't work because we're dealing with very, very fine calculations here. And we need to know beyond a shadow of doubt exactly where we are in the process so we can make the highest and best offer. And that's it. And then we put it in the deal evaluator software, and it tells me with a high degree of probability exactly what I can pay on that deal. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we can actually pay more because we know what we have coming out on the backside. So, hey, if you want to start and you want to get going, just go find mortgage statements from motivated sellers. Doesn't matter what they're asking for it, because they're only really asking for what this is the biggest mistake people go. They go ask how much you want for your house. I hear all that. They go, how much you want for your house? I want $280,000 for my house. Okay, but they owe $270,000. So they're really not asking for $280,000. They're really asking for $10,000, right? Because they think they're going to get $280,000 so they can go pay Bank of America $270,000. Okay, well, if I know what they owe, well, they're really asking for $10,000. Well, I can come in and I can make an offer. I go, well, what if I give you $15,000 and I let you keep the mortgage and you let me keep the mortgage in place? Would you let me do that? And the answer is inevitably yes, a lot of times. I'm just telling you right now, don't assume that somebody will or won't take the deal unless you ask them for that, make them the offer. So that's what we do. We pay sellers more than what they're asking. That's how we get these deals. It's not that hard to do. And then we know how to exit them on the back end. Look, I'm going to tell you something right now. Sellers do a lot of weird stuff for a lot less money than $5,000. I'm telling you, it's crazy what they'll do. But anyway, that's it. And so we can pay full asking price, and we can get them the cash that they were thinking about putting in their front pocket. Mm-hmm. And we ask them that question specifically. Go, how much cash are you looking when this is all said and done, and we close the deal and everybody's paid? How much are you thinking you're going to put in your front pocket? And when you walk out the door, and they know the answer to that right away most of the time.
Yeah.
You go, oh, I want $280,000, I owe $270,000, about $10,000. Great. Now I know what they're asking. Now I can use the software to figure this equation out and see if I can get them $10,000, maybe $15,000. This is what we do. So go find the deals, get the sellers, and then get the mortgage statements, and then you can submit it to us, and we'll pay for them. Like if we get the deal done, you don't even have to negotiate the deal. You don't have to negotiate with the seller. We'll do all the negotiation because we're going to use it and put it in the software and figure it out. So that's it. I mean, go find a deal, get a mortgage statement, maybe get $3,000, $5,000, maybe $10,000 off of one mortgage statement, and not even have to worry about creating the note. Let us worry about that.
Yeah.
Learn it, then you can go do it yourself when you get old like me.
So is this what you specialize, or do you like diversify? Or when did you, if you do diversify in your investments, when did you start doing that?
I only do mortgage notes now.
Okay.
I don't do buy and hold. not intentionally. I don't do land. I don't do storage. I don't do multifamily. I don't do short term, midterm, long term, behavioral health, assisted. I don't do any of that stuff. Okay. I do one thing. I do one thing only. It's mortgages, usually wrap mortgages on either seller finance carry debt or sub two. And the reason why is what I said in the very beginning, because that's what banks do. Yeah. And banks are the biggest, baddest companies on the planet, and they don't own real estate. They control it all. Wow. When you understand how amortization works and how you can generate cash flow without owning it, I don't need depreciation. I get amortization. It's even better. Wow. If everybody goes, well, you don't get depreciation. Well, first of all, you got to have something to depreciate it against. Okay. Which means you got to make money. Okay. Most people don't have that luxury to be able to take advantage of depreciation. Number two, as I'll say this, is that if it was that important to a bank, depreciation, I can promise you, as greedy as they are, they would figure out how to get depreciation. So they don't need it because they get amortization, and they make a crap ton of money off amortization and the compounding of it. So once you understand that, it's game over, in my opinion.
And how can somebody start learning about all of that?
Yeah, I mean, we have the Creative Dealmaker Academy. A lot of this stuff's being taught already up until the point of note creation. It's like there's a lot better people that can teach how to go find deals. Okay? There's a lot of people that can teach you how to go find and do your first deal. What nobody can do is teach you how to create the note for maximum value and leverage it at any point that you want to and treat it as a very liquid asset. Okay? I don't know anybody on the planet that has done as many of as we have, signed as many of these as we have. I've literally signed my name on the closing documents and created this. We've done over 1,200 wrap mortgages, probably 1,500 now. I don't count anymore because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter to me. And there's hundreds and hundreds of others that we've taught how to do the process. Mm-hmm. And it's all, this is what we do. So I don't even think about it anymore. We just do it, and we have the system and the process to do it all. So, but this is where most people, where we start is where most people stop at the end of the day. They think they know what they've done is correct. In reality, 95% of the literally 95% of the time, these aren't my numbers. These are actual numbers. They're wrong. And the problem is that when it's wrong, you have one of two types of problems. You either have a legal problem or you have a financial problem. Mm-hmm. Either one of them are good things to be have. So we want to mitigate the risk and avoid having a legal or a financial problem. And it really just comes down to education and letting people understand that, hey, make sure you get the right team in place to make sure you get the best result possible. There's risk in everything we do. Look, I'm going to be honest. There's always risk, okay? But if I can mitigate the risk, then I feel a lot more comfortable, right? Yeah. And a lot of people just don't think of it this way, especially the younger people, right? Because they're bulletproof and they're immortal, right? Look, just because you don't have to wear there's not a law in the state of Ohio to wear a helmet riding a motorcycle doesn't mean you shouldn't wear a helmet, okay? Whether it's legal or not legal, okay? Same thing with the seatbelt. I might not, I can drive down the freeway 100 miles an hour without my seatbelt on, and it's not a problem until I get into an accident. Mm-hmm. Then I hope not only do I have my seatbelt on, but I'm hoping that my vehicle that's surrounding me is the safest, most protected vehicle to protect me in the event of an incident. Well, that's what this is. This whole process of transaction management is the vehicle that protects us. It's the seatbelt that protects us, the helmet that we wear. This is it. And if you don't, a lot of people don't think that way. And I guess I do because I'm older and I've done it, and that's okay. And so I can share and provide that, hopefully some value back to people. It doesn't cost anymore. It really doesn't cost any more to do it right. It just takes a little more time and a little more effort. And like I said, what's an extra 2 weeks on a transaction that you're going to hopefully get, benefit of for 10, 15, 20 years? Because that's how long these things should last. All right?
Yeah.
What else you got? You
I
think
don't
the
know.
word
That was
confusion is your head hurt? Mine hurts.
a little bit,
I'm
honestly.
gonna
That
say it
was
one more time because I said it a couple times. Don't worry about all this stuff on the back end. Just find the right team that can help you do it. Find the deal, analyze the deal, fund the deal, find the buyer. Let somebody else do the rest that's capable and competent. You don't need to worry about the what consists of the 500 pages and all those documents. That's somebody else's job. And we have the blueprint. I'll give the blueprint to whoever needs it. But I'm telling you right now, don't try to implement a blueprint. You'll be better off. You waste too much time, energy, effort, money. Just find somebody that's capable and competent of doing it. So anyway, enough of that.
I think that was perfect. That was essentially all my questions that I had.
Well, look,
I had
you're a lot younger than me, and you've done a lot fewer deals than me, and you probably have a lot less experience relative to this. And I
Mhm.
hope that I was able to break it down to a level that you can at least comprehend it. I don't
Oh
expect you
yeah.
to run out and do it, but at least comprehend it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even with people that are, at my level or my level of like very basic, but at least I know some, or people that
Well,
I
sometimes some is almost more dangerous than none at all. Let's be honest, right?
yeah.
Because everybody thinks they're an expert all of a sudden, right?
Oh yeah.
I can give you a loaded gun and give you an hour worth of YouTube video training. Does that mean you're going to be a expert
Mm-mm.
marksmith? Absolutely not. And you really need to be an expert marksmith or marksman?
Marksman?
Marksmith. I think so. Look, we want to shoot we want to be a sniper,
Yeah.
not some random dude with a shotgun, right?
Yeah,
We have to
absolutely.
be that specialized in what we do. And until we're individually capable of doing it, we got to have some other people on our team that we can trust to protect not only us but the integrity of the transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Cool.
know that what I've gotten from this call or this episode is you talking essentially is just make sure that you are partnering with the people that know what they're doing and know the process. And it seems like you're the perfect person to
Well, I am only because by default, I think, but no, in reality, that's what we do. That's why we have the team that we have, like the attorneys on my team, for example,
yeah.
okay, that we work with on a day in, day out basis. They literally consult for attorneys all over the country on how to do it correctly.
Wow.
So, like, I got the Tom Brady's of everything, in my
Your
opinion.
team. Yes,
The
exactly.
team.
That's what I meant to say.
I got my team. I got my attorney. That's the Tom Brady.
Hmm.
I got my underwriter. That's the Tom Brady. I've got my service. That's the Tom Brady. I've got my, you know, underwriter, Tom Brady. I don't have non-Tom Brady's. We spend a lot of time finding and seeking out the best of the best, so that not only because everything that I talk about and we do through USA Home Partners from the transaction side, it's what I use. I mean, look, last thing I'm going to do is go write a bad transaction. Why would I do that? I mean, I already know the wrong way to do it. I already learned that. So you get the benefit of piggybacking and using the same infrastructure and system that I use every single day. I mean, I literally do this every single day. It's all
Wow.
I do. So anyway, I hope that helps at least either help you make better informed decisions or think twice before doing something and maybe, you know, reevaluating what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I had mentioned before, I'm actually partnering with KJ Joseph Mudd, and we're doing multifamily together. So going into multifamily was the first time that it was really drilled into me. Like, you want an attorney, you want to make sure that you have everything looked at before anything gets signed, before anything starts. And it's nice to keep getting these reminders, whether, whatever field you're going into, make sure you have a good team, make sure you have people that know what is going on, because you don't. And you're not going to know everything, like you had said earlier.
Yeah, that's very true. So just keep asking. And you might go, oh, then you might say, oh, I got found somebody who's even better, right? And you
Mhm.
replace them. That's fine too. Look, at the end of the day, I just want deals to be done right because we have to protect the community, right? We have to protect the creative financing world. Okay, if we got a bunch of people that are going out and doing things like the Wild Wild West and screwing things up, we won't have this opportunity for long, because the feds will come in and shut everything down and just say, no, you guys aren't responsible enough. We're going to make it illegal. And then you won't be able to do these anymore. I can promise you that'll happen. Okay. So my job is to help educate people to make sure they're making the best informed decision. Because if they go, I don't want them to screw it up for me. All right. Because I know how much value there is in these types of transactions. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let somebody go screw it up and not let them know what they need to be thinking about or considering when structuring this stuff. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the last question really would be, like the whole podcast is called Driven by Youth, and it's not only referring to myself as one of the youths, but I have a lot of uh, different programs I'm a part of, and my end goal is to really try to uplift and educate and try to guide the next generation, so that we're all
As am I. I mean, honestly, because look, the more I can help, you know, it's given back that and stuff that I was given. Like I said earlier on, you guys have such a tremendous advantage over when I was your age. We didn't have the internet. Okay, I mean, seriously, the internet. When I was your age, I don't. No, the internet was not around. Okay, we had cable TV, but that was about it. We didn't have streaming service. We didn't have Netflix. Didn't have YouTube. Didn't have meetups. Didn't have online education. We didn't have any of this stuff, right? So, and there was a hell of a lot less people that could really be trusted advisors. At the end of the day, that's what you're seeking, is a trusted advisor. And a good trusted advisor will be a partner in your relationship in some capacity, not necessarily not driven by a fee, right? Well, you just give me X and then I'll tell you what I know. So we're here to help. I mean, most of the people that are in this space, I think, are very, very giving. But giving doesn't mean the right way. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people want to be a giver, and I commend them, but you also can give bad information. Okay, so be really, really careful. If you're not sure of the answer, you get a second opinion, get a third opinion, get a 10th opinion, right? Do it seriously. You got to get that, and then the cream will always rise to the top, and then you'll be fine. But it does take a little bit of work. You just got to protect yourself first. That's it. So, all right. What else you got? Anything else?
I think the last real thing that I would want to know, and like how I was trying to I was going into it. So being one of the youths, I know that there are going to be situations that are not going to be as favorable. Like when you had mentioned you had lost essentially $6 million. What kept you going? What is the thing that helps you when you come across situations like that? You can push past it.
Well, look, I lost the opportunity to make an additional $6 million. Okay, it wasn't like I wasn't making money already. I could have just made more. This is like in a perfect example. This is that you're going to go look and you're going to find these deals and go, oh, I can make $3,000 by assigning this deal to another buyer. Mm-hmm. However, if you had the right tools, for example, the deal evaluator software, and you understood how math works in these types of environments, and you go, holy crap, whoever I'm selling to, if they do this strategy, is going to make $177,000 over 10 years. I think I can get an extra $3,000 out of them, $5,000, $10,000. It's just education. It's just knowing. So those are the kind of things. So it's not like you're losing money per se. It's like, how do I optimize the opportunity, right? Because a lot of people think that, oh, I can't keep. Perfect example. I can't. This is a negative equity deal. I lose money cash flow. Mm-hmm. I hear this all the time. This is not a deal. There's no equity in it, and it doesn't cash flow. Hear it all the time. Okay. Well, you're right if that's what you're going to do with that property. But what if you did this over here? We do negative equity, low equity, no equity deals, that would not ever cash flow as a rental and make hundreds of thousands of dollars off of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. It really is. So, get every deal. It's funny, and almost every deal that I've purchased came from either a realtor or a wholesaler that didn't think they could sell it to somebody else. I bought them all, 1,200 and something of them. I don't even know the number.
Okay.
I think I've negotiated direct with the seller maybe a handful of times, like in the initial conversation.
Mhm.
Like if you had a deal and you were in negotiation with the seller and you were stuck, I'd come in and we'd figure that out. But I would never have the initial conversation with the realtor or the seller directly. That's the wholesaler's responsibility or the realtor's responsibility. I'll make the offer and then they can shop it. So that's it. So you just gotta, there's lots of ways that you can monetize the opportunity, right? But it all starts with the deal. So I would say this is why it's important for anybody that's getting into this business or starting. The number one thing that you need to understand and learn how to do is go how to source, find deals, because everything starts with a deal. I don't care if you're a fix and flipper. I don't care if you're a lender, if you're a title company, you're an attorney, you're a note creator, no buyer, no seller, occupational health, long-term, short-term, it doesn't matter. If you don't have the deal, none of that ever happens. Okay. So the biggest thing that you can do is become a deal finder, which is basically the negotiating side of it. Learn it, understand it, and then control. Once that you control it, because you don't have to keep everything. You just need to know how to find the buyer for it, right? And how to get paid on it. That's why the wholesaling model is such a great model, because you control the hammer. You control it from the beginning. If you don't like the deal, then guess what? You don't get it. I don't care. I
Yeah.
want $5,000. Now you got to understand the numbers. You got to understand other people have to make money on it. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that you can do is learn how to find deals and analyze deals.
Yeah.
That's it. You do that, you can do anything you want to do because everything starts with that. So do that first.
Man.
Find
Oh,
50 deals first. Don't get sidetracked on doing all this other crap. Just go learn how to find them and analyze them. You'll be so much further off than anybody else in the future, because what happens, you get stuck in that little thing and saying, "Oh man, I'm really not an expert." Now what you do is you become jack of all trades and master of none.
mhm.
Okay, you need to be really, really good at one thing.
Mhm.
If you can be the best at any one thing, you'll crush it. But if you're average at everything, there's always going to be somebody better
Yeah.
that can do it cheaper, faster, more efficient, whatever. So, all right,
Yeah. My gosh. Thank you.
we'll find some
Thank
deals. Send them over. Let's see if we can do something together.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm trying to focus on the multifamily space, but I do know
Hey,
people
same
that
difference.
are.
Go find multifamily. Look, I don't look. There's multifamily is great. Storage is great. Land is great. You make money doing any one of those things, but just do one of them.
Yep.
Don't try to do them all.
Yep.
Oh yeah. People go, what do you? They go, what do you buy? Well, I buy everything. What do you buy it? I buy it anywhere. What
Yep.
price? Any price if it's a good deal. Well, I mean, you gotta stay in your lane. That's why. Look, I've been doing this a long time. I personally only do Texas. Do I know
Oh,
how to do deals in Arizona and Florida and Ohio? Absolutely. Probably better than most other people. But I don't want to do them there because I've narrowed it down to being a sniper. I'm a sniper in Texas on wrap mortgages, period.
wow.
There's not a
Okay.
better sniper on the planet out there than me when it comes to this thing. Now, if you ask me, hey, what do you think of land? I don't even know how to hold the land gun per se, right? I mean, you couldn't even do it. You're probably better equipped than I am. But I don't make no bones about it. I'm not trying to be something and I'm not.
Yeah.
I prefer to do wraps and that because that's what I've been doing. And now I'm the expert at it. So pick your lane, stay in it, don't get
Good.
out.
Good.
Multifamily sounds like is where you're at. That's awesome. All right.
Man, those I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on and one for going through everything that you went through. It's amazing. I'm going to rewatch this.
I'm
Um,
going to rewatch it too because I probably forgot some of the stuff I said.
and thank you for the closing statements as well. I think it's really it's in I don't know. I'm around a lot of people who are very jack of all trades, at least in my personal life. and coming into real estate and partnering with who I'm partnering and everything that I'm doing, it very much teaches me, okay, yeah, focus on one thing. So I'm getting rid of the distractions right now.
The best part about real estate in general, this is the last thing I'll say, is that everything can be leveraged and outsourced. Okay. Everything from finding buyers to title companies or underwriters, all that stuff. You don't need to do any of that stuff. You shouldn't do it anyway.
Yeah.
But control one thing and be the best multifamily negotiator. Then once you perfect that, then figure something else out. That's the best piece of advice I can give you. And it's hard to do. And you may not like the first one and you might have to change, like going to college, right? I changed my degree 14 times.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
I didn't, not literally, but probably 6.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I started out one. It's like, I don't even remember what. I think I started out of criminal justice and I changed it. I don't know why I stopped doing that. And then I ended up changing to something else. And then I couldn't handle some of the math and some of the aerospace stuff. So I said, I don't want to do math anymore. And I ended up going to business and long story short, but you don't know unless you try. So, but once you like it and you find out you can do it, then really become an expert at it. That's the best thing you can do for yourself. And that'll give you the most value moving forward. So, all right.
All right. That was really motivating for me.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll go do something with it.
I will. Next
right.
time we talk, I'll be closer to being an
Or
expert.
call me, text me, email me anytime. If I can give any assistance, I'm happy to do so.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Nick. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me.
All right. Thanks. You have a good one too.
You as well. Bye.